keep it like that today. It was a physical game. I mean, they played hard, and I heard one of the commentators said kick somebody in the head on purpose. It was a 50-50 duel, and he pulled me down, and I tried to avoid to touch him. And trust me, if I want to kick somebody in the head, I know how to kick somebody in the head, and I will make him fall asleep. So that's the only thing I have to say.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Southern Manx podcast by the fans for the fans. Episode 10, not 11. Episode 10. Crikey, sorry guys, just a little bit excited here as we've just seen Paul Pogba with a lovely finish to make us go 1-0 up in the Milan game. So excuse the lack of professionalism there. Our loyal fans will know that's not the way we like to do things here on the Southern Manx podcast. So you'll have to afford us that tonight. So on the show tonight, we've got the usual resident guests. We've got Joe Perkins. How you doing, guys?
Evening, mate. I'm good, thanks.
Sorry, I'm still buzzing.
We'll let you off. Yeah, I'm well, thanks, buddy.
Nick, how you doing?
I was going to say well recovered, but not too sure. But yeah, I'm all right, mate. I'm all right.
Mark Powell, how you doing?
Fat boy one ear.
Yeah, that's it. Fat boy one ear. I've been called worse, but thank you very much. So looking at today's show, we're going to have a look back at the West Ham fixture in the Premier League. Look forward to the FA Cup tie with Leicester on Sunday. England squad's been announced. We've got the internationals. We've got our usual feature with the quiz, as well as any other business. And of course, we'll be commenting live on the Europa League tie we've got at the moment with Milan, where as it stands, as we're recording this, we're 1-0 up with a lovely finish from Pogba. So calm, compose myself again to continue with the podcast. Mark, so a fourth successive clean sheet for us in the league after the West Ham game. Been quite a while since we've done that. So it would appear that we're making some real progress defensively. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think there's a few contributing factors to that. I think Gary Neville mentioned on commentary a few weeks ago, back four as a unit is pushing a lot higher, being a lot more braver in possession. There's less pass backs to the keeper. It's always on sort of front foot, trying not to get caught out from that when teams sort of drag us back. I think Harry Maguire, was very critical of him a few weeks ago after a 4-0 win against Sociedad. I think he was taking on too much, getting dragged out of position, left, right and centre. And I think he is a big part of that, definitely. He's got to take some credit there, you know. He's doing his job, he's leading, and that's what we want. I think the goalkeeper is helping as well. He's cutting off the space in behind the back four. So that allows them to push up because he will come and claim crosses. He's much more aggressive than De Gea, although, you know, jury's still out on him with his shot stopping. The error in Milan last week, hopefully against Milan, hopefully won't cost us tonight. But that's definitely helping. And now it's a case of just bringing it all together. Obviously, keeping clean sheets is all very, very well and good, but if you don't score, then you don't win football matches. So I think we've always been searching for that under Ollie, whereby some of it looks good, but there's holes in other parts. Like you go back to the Everton game as an example, brilliant going forward. I think we haven't been at that level since Pogba's injury, so hopefully getting him back will help, and we can build upon the defensive solidity and bring this all together for the rest of the season, and you know, run City as close as we can, push as far as we can in the cups, and yeah, you know, who knows if we can bring that all together, have a good window, you know, next season could be even better for us.
Yeah, and I think we've been quite consistent with our sort of back four, back five, you could say. I know that Henderson and De Gea have rotated a little bit, and Bailly's come in now and again, but Ollie seems quite settled on his consistent sort of back four, back five. So I think that's definitely been a contributing factor with that. Speaking about sort of defensive lineups, Nick, Moisey set up with quite a defensive lineup again, similar to the fixture we had not long ago against West Ham at home. 3 centre halves, 2 wing backs, and sort of 3 sort of more defensively minded midfielders. Were you surprised at that, given the fact that if they'd have got the win at Old Trafford, they would have gone into the top 4 above Chelsea with a game in hand and would have given them a really good shot at trying to get into that top 4?
I'm not surprised, given the manager. He's not known for his tinkering or expansive football. Moyes' teams have always been dogged, hard-working. So, no, not surprised at all, given the manager away from home against a bigger side that's above them in the league. So, not surprised by the tactics at all. If I was a West Ham fan, I would be disappointed because other teams have come to Old Trafford this season and got a lot more than a draw. So we were there for the taking, given our home form and our injuries. So I'd be very disappointed if I was a West Ham fan that it almost took them 65, 70 minutes to wake up when they brought on Ben Rama and Lanzini. So I'd be disappointed. You don't want to watch that as a fan. That's not what gets you out of bed. That's not what gets you excited. This could be West Ham's best ever season, and then you line up with 8 at the back. So it's disappointing from a West Ham perspective. But to answer your question, no, not surprised one bit at all. It was always going to be a tight affair. I think we all kind of called that on last week's pod. It was never going to be a game for goals. I'm just glad we got out of there with a win.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, a little bit surprised. I know they didn't have Fornells because he was out through injury. And didn't really trust Ben Rama, as you mentioned, to come until about the 60-minute mark. So it always seems as if they were sort of playing for time and maybe try and nick one here and there for maybe a set play. But Moyes' record now since leaving Old Trafford is 11 defeats in 15 attempts. So not great, really. Almost as good a record as him at United being manager since he's left, to be honest. But on the topic still of, United and West Ham, JP, there's been some talk this week between Fletcher, Murto and Solskjaer. There's been murmurings that we are going to be giving Declan Rice some serious consideration in the summer. What do you make of that rumour, and do you think that he would sit in well with United? How would that look to you? Whose place do you think he would be taking?
I don't think it's beyond the realms of possibility, and I think that he's sort of at a stage potentially where he might be looking to move on, to progress his career and to go to a bigger club maybe. I think that it's one that is possible in terms of the financial side of it. As we know, they're talking 80, 100 million. Some doubt as whether we have that sort of money, whether anyone has that sort of money in this sort of position the world's in right now. But in terms of him as a player, I think, it's well muted, and we've talked about it before that we should be and probably are in the market for a defensive sort of ball playing midfielder, which he undoubtedly is. I think he's a decent player. Do I think he's a world-class player? I'm not so sure. I'm not saying he can't develop into one, but for me, the jury's out on that at the moment. I think he's okay. I don't know if he's world class. On the other hand, who else would you sign in that position? Is there anyone else that we should be looking at? He's young and English. That adds to the price tag, doesn't it? So yeah, I'm not 100% sure, but I mean, I think it is one that's possible, and I think I could see it happening if we wanted to make it happen. Yeah,
I mean, obviously, English players sort of transferring in between clubs at the Premier League always come at a premium. I'm not sure if he's quite a minimum £100 million player that David Moyes had quoted earlier on in the season. But yeah, I suppose it remains to be seen. So yeah, end of it all, United get over the finishing line with a 1-0 win. Obviously, own goal from Craig Dawson, but a win's a win. And we move on to the next section, which is going to be Leicester in the FA Cup on Sunday.
He can pass now, Paul, because Zlatan is the Premier League man of the match. Will you pass that over to him? You see, I'll pass it now. I know.
Good evening. Welcome back to the Southern Manx podcast by the fans for the fans. We're going to look forward to the FA Cup tie at Leicester at the weekend. Just a quick update. We're 62 minutes in, still 1-0 up away at Milan from a Paul Pogba goal. So about half hour left to play. Mark, I'll come to you first then, mate. Both teams picked up their league form recently, you would say. Probably both favourites for a top 4 finish. How impressed have you been with the job that Brendan Rodgers is doing at Leicester?
Yeah, very, very impressed, considering You know, he's had another big player sold in the summer with Chilwell. They seem to react really well with their transfer sales. Really good recruitment. You know, players like Fofana, James Justin, Castagna all come in, just slotted in nicely. They seem to do their homework on the players they get in. Even like Tielemans, I know we saw him when he was at Anderlecht a few years back, and he looked a brilliant player, and now he's at Leicester. And you, what I like about Leicester is you could go around most of their players and you think that's a bit of an upgrade on what we've got, or that slot into our side. So I think that's credit to Brendan, credit to what they're doing there, but also I guess makes me think that with their first 11, I think they probably should be where they are right now. I think they've got a very good team. The question will always be, have they got the depth to, you know, when Vardy gets an injury or Maddison or one of their other big players, can they handle it with the squad players that come in? You know, your Mark Albrightons and your Ozzy Perez's of this world. But for Brendan, I think he's another one doing the absolute maximum with the players that he's got at hand. And let's not forget, Brendan was finished second with Liverpool, and obviously arch rivals. But he didn't have a huge squad then either. If you remember, that was they were buying sort of some unusual players back then, sort of low transfer fees. Your players like your Barinis and your Welsh Javies in Joe Allens, and then they would go and raid Southampton for all their players. So I think it wasn't as if Brendan definitely didn't have as good a squad as what Klopp's got now. And you think, actually, probably, again, did well at Liverpool. Obviously had a great trophy, loads of trophies up at Celtic. And that's not as hard. Well, it's not, you can see Neil Lennon struggled there this season. So I think give Brendan a lot of credit because his team plays good football. He doesn't have a massive squad and loads of big transfers coming in each season. He's making players better. So yeah, really impressed with them, and it's going to be a real tough game. I think Leicester will still be there or thereabouts come the end of the season, provided they don't lose, you know, a number of key players. I think they'll get top four, and yeah, big credit to Brendan, because I think if you said what's your top, you know, the famous top six that gets talked about these days, Leicester have kind of broken that mold a bit now. They have to be considered in that group. And I think obviously the title win is a completely different side now. But Brendan has kind of taken them on a bit. You saw after they won the title, they kind of fell away quite a lot. And he's kind of brought them back with a new blood, and yeah, brilliant. They're a great side.
Yeah, and that leads me on nicely, JP. If you was in Brendan Rodgers' position, what would you take? Silverware in an FA Cup win or Champions League football, given their collapse last season? What do you think is their main priority?
Oh, I mean, as a purist, I want to sit here and tell you that it's the FA Cup and it's a trophy, because at the end of the day, what you want to see is your team win trophies. Like that's the ultimate, isn't it? However, I think the importance that's placed these days on getting into that Champions League is absolutely massive. Not just from a financial perspective, but also, you know, to be involved in probably the best. No, not probably. I'd go all out and say, obviously, the best club tournament in the world, and probably the best tournament in the world in terms of the quality of the opposition, you know, the status it affords you as a club, etc. And as Orlando sort of alluded to there, the fact that they've sort of broken into that sort of traditional top six sort of conversation in the way they finished. I know they fell off a bit last year. I think their priority will be to finish in that top four. I honestly do. However, I think the way that Brendan operates, that doesn't mean to say they're going to, you know, put out a second string side and hand us the game in the FA Cup. I think they'll be trying to win that game. but I think he will have his eye on finishing in that top 4 with a view to progression again next season. So I know that might not be popular, but I think unfortunately that's where it is, and that's where we are in our game at the moment. So yeah, I think that's what it will be.
Yeah, and just on that note, then, do you think they'll finish in the top 4, like Mark said? Do you think they'll finish in the top 4 coming the end of the season?
I do. I don't think that they will fall away like they did last season. I think they'll still be up there. I think they'll finish in the top 4, and they'll go on to play Champions League next season. They've got good players. They're a very good side, as you said as well. They're very good to watch. Play good football. I think he's got his head screwed on. He's a good manager. I always like the fact that he's one of these guys that sort of worked his way up from different positions, academy manager, etc. I know he spent a lot of time studying the football in Spain, particularly when sort of tiki-taka was at its height, when Barcelona were doing bits under Pep. Yeah, I think he's a very good manager. He's got a very good set of players there. It's a very well-run club. Yeah, and I think they'll stay in that top 4 and they'll finish in the Champions League spots this year.
Yeah, good stuff. So, Ozzy, then, given everything that we've said about Leicester, we know that Maddison and Barnes will probably be out, but they have had 1 or 2 come back from injury. Mainly the centre-backs all seem to be fit now. Where's Leicester's threat? Sum up their brand of football and their danger men, and what are we looking out for at the weekend?
Yeah, I think they're a far cry from the days of Martin O'Neill's teams with the likes of Neil Lennon, Muzzy, Steve Claridge and Emil Heskey. I think they've come a long way since then, and I think Mark's right. They play a good brand of football. I like the way that they've done things over the years in terms of when players have gone, they've brought in quality replacements, got good value for money, don't overspend. And they use their transfer budget well. I mean, they still got, again, I think probably punching above their weight a little bit, really, in terms of where they are in the league. I mean, they've got some decent players. I'm not sure if you gave that same group of players to a different manager, that they would necessarily be doing it as well. I mean, I think Iosi Perez has come back. He's a decent player. I'm not sure that he would be on the top of anybody's radar on the rest of the top 6 if he was available. I think Johnny Evans has come back from injury as well. I think he played in their last game. He was never really a first choice at United, but I think he's gone on to improve really, really well. And if he was available and he came back, that certainly wouldn't be a bad signing, in my opinion, if he came back to us. I know that City and Guardiola courted him a little while back. In the full-back position, they've got Pereira. They've got an Amati. They've also got in the midfield, you already mentioned, Maddison and Barnes, which are out, but I think Tielemans is a great signing, really, really good player, great ball player. They signed the Turkish lad at centre back. You'll have to excuse, I can't pronounce. I'm just going to go with the Turkish number 4. I'm not going to try and attempt his surname. And then recently James Justin, who probably would have been one of the better fullbacks in the league this season, but unfortunately for him, has suffered an ACL injury, which I know very much what that's like. So yeah, they've got some real talent, and we haven't even spoken about the likes of the elder statesmen like Vardy and Schmeichel. So yeah, I think overall it's a good squad, and I think they probably are, like I said, punching above their weight. But we should still have enough to get through the tie. I think our FA Cup squad versus their FA Cup squad, I think, would win. I suppose it just depends on how strong both sides choose to go in that tie.
Yeah, no, some good points, and yeah, I think we can all agree that they've got some top players. Tielemans as well has been a standout this season. So I'll start with you then, O. Prediction for the weekend, scoreline. Are we in the next round?
I think it will be pretty tight. I can see another draw after full time, and then it could go either way, really. So I think it will be 1-1, maybe 2-2, potentially at full time. And then, once the 90 minutes goes and it goes to sort of extra time and penalties, it's anyone's, really, isn't it? Yeah,
JP?
I fancy us for this one. I think we've had rotten luck with FA Cup draws, not just this season, over the past, 3 or 4 seasons, I think. But yeah, I fancy us to win this game. I'm going to say 2-0 United.
Optimistic. And then Mark. On mute, pal.
I think, yeah, I noticed that. I saved it before you said anything. Obviously not. I think if we're saying that you say Maddison and Barnes are out, I think there'll be big losses for them. I think Barnes scored in the league game at the King Power earlier in the season. I would expect us to win this. I think it'd be close again, depending on what happens in Milan tonight, of how leggy we'll be, because we don't have a lot of options at the minute. But I can see us winning. I think it'd be another close game. I'm going to go 1-0.
Yeah, sure. And before I come back to you, JP, Dean Henderson's just pulled off a wonderful save from close range from a Zlatan header. But yeah, final thoughts, JP?
Yeah, I was actually just going to come in on that, mate. Just fantastic save, like point blank header, one hand, strong hand, great save.
Great save, yeah. So I'm always the optimistic one, but I do think perhaps this may take its toll, and Leicester haven't had a game. They're full of beans, aren't they, Leicester? I think this will be a tough game, but I want to be optimistic. I'm going to say 2-1 United. We're now going to hand over to part 3, and we're going to come away from United a little bit and talk about the England squad announcement today. Some big call-ups, maybe some shock omissions as well, and all things international. So stay tuned.
We expect to get attacked by the lions. It's normal, because if you're a cat, you will run away. But if you're a lion, you will stay among the other lions. I came here as a 35-year-old where everybody thought I was in a wheelchair. And what happened? The lion is still alive. And that's the way it is.
Welcome back, everybody, to part 3 of Southern Manx podcast. Hope you've enjoyed all the sections up to this point and the sound bites to go with it. In this section, we're going to take a little look at international break that's upcoming. Obviously, a number of Man United players have been selected for their countries. So we're going to talk a little bit about some of those questions. Nick, come to you first. Obviously, Henderson, Maguire, Shaw, Rashford, and Lingard from the United team that are in, or the United squad are in Gareth Southgate's squad. Obviously, Maguire and Shaw we expect to go in from this season's form on as first choice into this group of games. Henderson maybe, but probably a toss up between him and Pope. The other one that we've been talking about is Wan-Bissaka. I think he's had a pretty solid season, certainly defensively. Keeps possession well. Are you surprised that he isn't in, given Trent's form has been patchy, Kyle Walker's been sort of in and out, Trippier had a big ban, Reece James has been in and out. Is Wan-Bissaka unlucky there to miss out?
No, I don't think so. I actually agree with Southgate here. Like, if you look at it, Wan-Bissaka on paper is probably 5th choice right back now, so he probably needs to look at those Republic of Congo options. To be honest, like if Trent's been dropped and he still can't get in the squad, then it's not for him. But I don't blame Southgate, because when he handed him his first call up when Wan-Bissaka first joined United, Wan-Bissaka mugged it off and dropped himself out of the squad and played the next game for United. You're never going to impress a manager like that. Even at the level that I manage at, I know the difference between being unavailable and unreliable. And if that's your first England call-up and you pull yourself out of the squad and then play at the weekend for your club, I just think you mugged it off. And I just think Southgate's right to stick to his guns, stick to the players he's been in the trenches with, throughout that World Cup run and things like that. So I think Wan-Bissaka's done him no favours there. I think the ironic thing was, I think it was the same squad that Shaw pulled out of, or it was around about that time. And you can see it's taken him so long to get back, and the rich vein of form he's in, that there's probably not the amount of competition at left back than there is at right back. So no, not surprised about Wan-Bissaka. I think he needs to look at his passport post Brexit and see if he can get in that Congo side. I mean, it'll be embarrassing if he can't get in the Congo side. But that's my view on Wan-Bissaka. For the keepers, Pickford's injured. Henderson's got as good a chance as any. I'm not sold on Pope as an outstanding keeper. I think he's a solid pair of hands, but he reminds me very much of like your Ben Foster's, Fraser Forster's. I don't see them as big England number ones, but a solid pair of hands. Ian Walker, if you will, on the Leicester thing. So that's where I see that. Rashford's obviously now a doubt. We'll have to see if he plays against Leicester. If he plays against Leicester, he'll probably play for England. If he don't, then he won't. Lingard's back in. I'll let the boys touch on that. And Maguire's, that's actually a pretty good combination at the centre half for England there, Maguire and Stones, given the form that they're. You have to say they're both in. Stones is going to get the plaudits because it's fashionable to like John Stones. It's not as fashionable to enjoy Slabhead's performances, but we've said it all along. He's improved United's backline. He's captain of one of the biggest clubs in the world. So good. I think it's nice we're represented well for England. I'm not surprised by Wan-Bissaka at all. He had his chance. He mugged it off. If anything, Southgate has grown a pair this selection by dropping Trent and still sticking to his guns with Wan-Bissaka. So, yeah, that's where I stand on that. It's a worry for United that Wan-Bissaka will probably have to travel more to play for his country, for Congo. That's annoying. But, I would have loved to have played for my country. You at least go there, show up, let their doctor see that you're injured, so you show willing and get back in the next squad. But pulled out of his first England squad, don't deserve to be there.
Yeah, so do you actually think, just quick question going back on that, Nick, is Wan-Bissaka the fifth best in terms of ability? Forget the previous dropouts. Is he really the fifth best English right back? Is that where you place him? I mean, is that acceptable from a Man United standpoint? Is Kieran Trippier ahead of him in terms of ability?
I actually like Wan-Bissaka. I think he's a very solid defender, and again, he was signed the same summer as Maguire, and given the comical goals we used to concede, you would have to say that they've improved us. You just can't see him fitting into Southgate's plans. He likes those sort of fullbacks that can tuck in, or maybe like an auxiliary third centre back, as we've seen with Walker. Trent offers more going forward. You'd have to say Trippier offers more going forward. But defensively, Wan-Bissaka's better than all of them. He isn't. He is. I know he started his career as a winger, but he is kind of a throwback to an old-fashioned fullback. But each manager plays their own way, and they stick to their own guns, and can be very stubborn at times. And I just think Southgate isn't looking at his ability now. I think he's looking at his character, and we heard a lot about that in that 2018 World Cup squad, of how close these boys were, and there wasn't any clicks and things like that. So Southgate, if he's made his mind up on this lad isn't for me, he's let me down, you got to back the manager on that one. I think Southgate, Wan-Bissaka shot himself in the foot. Shaw almost did the same, but Shaw's managed to pull it back.
Yeah, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think just having a quick look at England's fixtures, the only defence I can give for Southgate is that the next three fixtures are San Marino first at home, Albania away, Poland at home. Do you need a defensive-minded fullback in the squad? I don't really think necessarily that you do, but for the same token, those right backs are kind of like for like. I think if you've got a defensive-minded fullback or more defensive-minded fullback, like say Aaron Wan-Bissaka, he'd be a good option to have in the squad. And then going into the Euros, if you've got a game where you kind of need to shut up shop, or you're playing a team that's really strong on the left-hand side, say with a strong left-hand side, say like a France, which we'll come to in a minute, if they've got the likes of Digne on the left-hand side, maybe coupled with an Mbappe in that left sort of channel, you're going to want someone of the sort of Wan-Bissaka ilk to help you through those ties. So I think it would be foolish for him not to integrate him into the squad, and even if he doesn't use him, even if he's going to only potentially earmark him for certain big games in the Euros, because let's face it, England aren't going to need him in the group stages of this World Cup qualifier. It's Hungary, Andorra, Poland, San Marino. You're not going to need a defensive-minded right back in any of those games, even in the away fixtures, but you might do in the Euros in a quarters or a semi-final. So I hope that doesn't come back to bite him in the backside in one of those games.
Yeah, it's a good point. I seem to remember when we were knocked out, I think it was Kyle Walker at fault for one of the goals in the semi-finals. I think I'm right in that, in saying that. So, you know, there is always that defensive quality that he brings. All right. Looking at the attacking options, JP, we kind of touched on it there. Obviously, Marcus has gone off tonight against Milan. Hopefully, that's nothing serious. He's been carrying a shoulder injury. Could this have been he may even pull out after the end of this game, maybe tomorrow. Could this have been a game where, you know, we sort of enforce a rest on Rashford? I remember Ferguson would kind of hold back players from international duty if he didn't want them to travel and felt they needed a rest. Question number one. And two, Jesse Lingard, again, we talked about him last week with the West Ham preview. He's gone straight back in after a fine run of form on loan. What are your thoughts on those two?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, I strongly believe that players called up for their national team, they should have the attitude of, say, a David Beckham. You know, it was everything to him to play for his national team, and I don't agree with like holding players back, etc. I think there can be decent conversations had between, you know, respectable managers, you know, and sort of it steered towards not using players when you don't need to use them, if they do need a rest, if they, you know, have played a lot of games, if they are carrying a knock, etc. But I don't think that should be something that's arranged beforehand. I think players should join up with the squad. Those conversations could be had prior to that between the managers, and then a decision made by the national manager. So yeah, I mean, I guess that you could say that it would be a good opportunity for him to have that rest, but I don't think it's really something that should be decided beforehand. So yeah, maybe injured now, maybe out anyway. But might be nice to give a couple of other players a run out. Obviously, there's some new players that are in the squad. That Ollie Watkins, who's been doing well at Aston Villa, you know, might be at this sort of level of opposition. Might be a good opportunity to give him his opportunity and keep Rashford maybe wrapped up a bit in cotton wool. With regards to your second question on Jesse Lingard, I think he's back in there on merit. He's been playing very well for West Ham, been scoring goals, assisting goals. So fair play to him for earning his sort of call up back into the squad. I also think it's sort of quite typical of Gareth, who he does give lots of new players an opportunity. We've seen that over the last couple of years. You know, if you're playing well, you do get in, but he does also have this sort of tendency to have a core group of players that have sort of performed for him before, stood up for him before, that he will give the opportunity to, you know, if he knows them, so to speak. And I think that Jesse's sort of benefiting from that relationship they've had previously, obviously played in the World Cup, etc. But no, I think it's great that Lingard's gone out to West Ham and is playing well, and he's got his call up again, and I hope that momentum can continue for him. And who knows, you know, when we touched on it a couple of weeks ago, he might end up staying at the club next season and forcing his way back into the side. Stranger things have happened.
Yeah, exactly. Probably benefiting from the likes of Maddison and Grealish injuries. Maybe if they were fit, would he still have got a call up? Who knows? But like you say, Gareth was very loyal to those players from the World Cup. All right, away from England then. Pogba and Martial have obviously been missing for United. Pogba, since the Everton game, he's had an extended outage out of the team and has been really missed for me. I think we haven't looked the same with him out the side from an attacking sense. Martial has obviously been a bit hit and miss this season. Given the injuries to both of those recently and the wealth of talent France have got at their disposal, are you surprised that they've gone straight back in? Is there anything? Is this just, you know, again, Deschamps picking players up on, you know, that he wants in there? It's not a case of we shouldn't read anything into this.
I think a little bit like Southgate. He's got his boys, isn't he? He's got his sort of core group of players, and Pogba very much is part of that. I mean, just having a look at a bit of a press conference that Deschamps had earlier. He has said that, you know, pardon the translation, but he is attached to the French team in the sense that he is a key player. So I think if he's available, he plays. That's the way that he looks at him, and he really does dovetail really well with Kante in the midfield. He sort of does things with Kante for France that I haven't seen him do anywhere else, really. And I think that he does have a really good relationship with Deschamps. I think Deschamps gets the best out of him. He believes in him. He puts his arm around him, and that seems to be the best way to kind of get a lot out of Pogba. You know, you are the best. You know, you are a great player. You are important, and I think he really feeds off that. And he really does. He does play well for France, and is really important to them. And like I said, he does really well with Kante in that midfield. But yeah, you're right. They do have a bit of an embarrassment of riches, really. You've still got people like Tolisso, Marcus Thuram, even people like Nzonzi that aren't making the squad. But they don't seem to go with many sort of central midfield players. They sort of seem to go heavy with the forwards. I mean, they've only called up Kante, Ndombele from Spurs, Pogba, Rabiot, and also Sissoko also from Spurs. So you're only looking at, you know, six players in the midfield position, yet they've got far more in the sort of the forwards and the wide forwards and defensive area. So I think that sort of tells you all you need to know about Deschamps. He's got his kind of core midfield that he sets out with and doesn't really stray away from that if he needs to. Slightly unsure as to why Martial's in the squad if he is still carrying a hamstring injury. Is he likely to play? I don't know. Again, it could come back to the fact that it's that core group of players. You know, they've done very well. You know, 2 consecutive finals, won one, lost one. They're through to the latter stages of the Nations League. So yeah, perhaps it's more a case of keeping the group together than necessarily that they're going to be playing all the games.
Yeah, that's a good point. Now, while we're talking, guys, we're into the 3rd minute of injury time at the San Siro. United lead Milan 1-0 thanks to a Paul Pogba goal. So we're just running down the clock here. Hopefully we can get over the line. And we will cover that in part 4, where we'll also pick up the next round of Carlos Quizros. So come back, join us for that. Your pens, pencils, crayons, if you're from Liverpool, paper, all ready, and meet us back here for part 4.
I see they're building a fantastic statue of you in Sweden. But tonight, could you do the honours for me and just give Paul this Man of the Match award? No, keep it home.
Welcome back to part 4 of the Southern Manx podcast by the fans, for the fans. We're all in very happy mood now, I'm sure, after just watching the climax of the away tie, the last 16 of the Europa League against AC Milan in the San Siro. We've come away with a 1-0 win, a fantastic little finish from Paul Pogba, who was fantastic and outstanding when he came on. I also thought Henderson had a superb game, really commanded his area on a couple of occasions. Great save, as we mentioned earlier, from Ibrahimovic from a header. He also just came out late in the game just to clean up a couple of bits and pieces and really sort of commanded that area. What did you make of it, Nicky?
Yeah, look, it's a great result, and I'm pleased to be in the hat, because when we first drew Milan, I remember saying I think it will be tight, but I think we'll get through the game. But I didn't think it would be like this. Maybe we'd do the job at Old Trafford and have maybe a not so positive result at the San Siro. So to come away with another clean sheet, 1-0, Pogba getting some minutes back on the pitch. As you say, positives in Henderson. I thought Fred looked good tonight as well. Plus, we've got players to come back hopefully soon. You can't really say anything negative. So pleased to get through the tie. Pleased one of the other potential sort of big boys is out of the competition. That's going to do our confidence a world of good going into Sunday at Leicester.
Absolutely, mate. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And who do you fancy then for the next round? Who do we want?
Well, everybody will be licking their lips at the Granada tie, won't they? That's who everybody will be looking at. I think we should be confident against anybody. I mean, obviously you always want to try to avoid wherever you can, but you can't really win any kind of major competition without having to play one of the big boys at some stage. Arguably, we've just done that with Milan. But yeah, I mean, if you look at who's left, you'd be looking at people like Granada. I don't know, maybe Slavia Prague. I think, probably want to avoid people like, obviously Arsenal, Roma and Ajax. But I think over 2 legs, I think with the kind of form and consistently that we're showing, we're not conceding many goals. We've got players coming back from injury. I'd sort of back us against any of those.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so would I. And I think that type of result is a fantastic result for us in terms of going away to a big side, coming away with a win, but also keeping a clean sheet, Mark.
Yeah, I mean, we touched on it earlier with the goalkeeper and how the back four have been pushing up, and you kind of said it just then, nail on the head. Henderson again with some great saves, but just his general aggressiveness off his line. So yeah, I think that was a perfect away performance. You keep a clean sheet, you nick a goal, then that becomes a real difficult problem for Milan because okay, they need one to take it to extra time, but even then, as they're pushing, there was creating some moments for us on the counter as well, which suits us down to the ground. So yeah, I'm feeling quite confident now after that, definitely, because I think Milan second in Serie A, they're probably the second strongest side in the competition other than us. Obviously, Spurs going out tonight, Rangers going out tonight, they would have been potentially tricky ties on paper. So yeah, I echo those points. I think you'd be confident going into any of them other teams. Obviously, just want to avoid some of the big boys because they can be potential banana skins. But even the Spanish sides, we say Granada, I think they're 8th in the league at the minute. They'll be technical, a bit like your Celta Vigo from a few years back. They're going to be no mugs. Villarreal will be a tough side. That's Unai Emery over there. So there's still some good sides left in there. But yeah, if we play like we have done, certainly tonight, I'd back us.
Yeah, absolutely. I would too. And listen, I need to hold my hands up a little bit because I know a few weeks ago maybe I was still reeling a little bit from the exit from the Champions League. I was quite dismissive of this competition, but I think having that big tie against AC Milan and obviously coming through that with a win and seeing us improving in those types of games has sort of ignited my enjoyment of it a little bit, and I'm also looking forward to the next round. So yeah, fantastic night for us. And let's see, did you say the draw was tomorrow, Ozzy?
Yeah, tomorrow early afternoon, you've got the draw for the quarters and the semi simultaneously. So we'll know who will get in the quarters, and if we get through, who we'd get in the semis as well. So that'll be interesting.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, we'll look forward to that. Brilliant. Thanks for that, boys. Okay, moving on then to the part you all look forward to every week, I'm sure. The Carlos Quizros is coming up now. Get your pens, pencils, paper. What else is it? Crayons. Get them ready. Have them all ready, boys. We're going to hit go right now. Okay, straight into it then. So the theme of the Quizros this week is finals. So all your questions are going to be on finals this week. So question number 1. At 1-0 down in the 1999 European Champions League final, which Bayern Munich player hit our post with what was described by ITV commentator Clive Tilsley as a delicious chip? Okay, question number 2. In the 1995 FA Cup final, I personally tasted my first final defeat as a United fan when we lost 1-0 under the Twin Towers to Everton. But who scored the Everton goal? Okay, question number 3. In the 1999 FA Cup final, what was unique about the Wembley playing surface? Question number 4. In the 2006 Carling Cup final, we cruised to victory 4-0 against Wigan Athletic, and it was very much seen as the first piece of silverware for that fantastic side we had back then, and we looked to kick on after that. The goals were scored in that game: 2 from Rooney, 2 from Ronaldo. No, sorry. Rooney scored twice. Ronaldo got 1. Apologies to confuse you all, but who scored the 4th goal? So Rooney got 2, Ronaldo got 1. Who scored the 4th? Finally, question 5. In the 2008 Champions League final in Moscow, name each player from both sides that missed their penalty in the penalty shootouts. Just give you a second to scribble down your last answers there, gents. And then we'll go through the answers. Everyone ready?
Yeah.
Happy days. Okay, so question 1. Which Bayern Munich player hit the post in the Champions League final in '99, described by a delicious chip?
Mehmet Scholl.
Absolutely correct. Mehmet Scholl. You boys get that as well?
The Turk German.
Yeah.
Yeah, love that. And you had old
mute.
Carsten Janker with an overhead that hit the bar as well.
Carsten Janker, yeah. And then it sort of, after it hit the bar, he sort of flapped a foot it, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
that's
it still
it,
does some sort of dolphin kick, wouldn't
Yeah, it was
I think
bizarre.
I've already bettered my score from last week, so I'm okay.
it?
Nicky
half
G,
point.
don't think we didn't miss that little unmute little episode there either, just to highlight that. Okay, fantastic, lads. Right, moving on then. Question number 2. In the 1995 FA Cup final, I personally tasted my first defeat as United fan. We lost 1-0 under the Twin Towers to Everton. Who scored the Everton goal?
Paul Rideout.
Paul Rideout, absolutely correct. It was indeed, yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely gutted.
My first thought was Daniel Amokachi because he was his strike partner, and I had a big head, little body figure of Daniel. I don't know why, of Daniel Amokachi, but then I thought, hang on, we'd be hearing that all the time, Daniel Amokachi. So it's got to be Paul Rideout, and that's what I went with that.
Yeah, absolutely gutted. And I mean, I think you don't often remember the finals you lose, but I remember that one vividly because I was going out. I was 7 years. I was going out for a walk with my sister and our new little dog afterwards. And I just remember feeling pig sick the whole walk. Couldn't enjoy it at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, so question number 3. In the 1999 FA Cup final, what was unique about the Wembley playing surface? Now, I'll accept a couple of different things here. What are we saying?
I've gone the cut of the grass.
I'll accept, yeah, absolutely. So it's not allowed anymore, but actually in the cup final in 1999, the FA Cup final, yeah, the grass was actually cut in diagonals in different sections. So the centre circle had a different pattern to the halves and the areas, etc. And it's quite. Oh, Mark's not happy there. He's disappeared from shot.
That's gone.
He's gone. To be honest with you, I did expect all of you to get that one. So I don't know what you're saying. We'll have a look afterwards because obviously you all sent me your answers independently. So I'll have a quick look at those in a minute. Okay, so apart from Nick, obviously he's just confirmed he's got it right. So that was question number 3, was it? Sorry, I've lost my track now.
Question 3, yeah.
Yeah, that's free, yeah.
I think I'm on for our first ever Southern Manx 5 out of 5 here, but I don't want to get too cocky.
In the 2006 Carling Cup final, we cruised to a 4-0 victory against Wigan Athletic. Rooney scored twice. Ronaldo scored 1, but who scored the 4th goal? Although it wasn't the 4th goal in the game, but the other goal.
King Louis.
King Louis, it was indeed. Yeah, Louis Sahar.
Yes.
Correct.
I was worried about that one.
Wrong game, wrong one. I've got it.
Okay.
Ferguson said he deserved to play in the final because he had scored in most of the rounds leading up to it, hence the Rue Van Nistelrooy sulking incident.
Absolutely, yeah, that's it. I remember it well. I really loved that kit as well. I think it was the one, you know, when it had like the little white section, the little white. It was a Vodafone one with a little white section here. Again, I think it was a similar era to the one that I was wearing the other week, the Total 90 sort of era, a little bit later, maybe a little bit earlier.
Yeah, it would have been if it was 2006. Yeah.
Yeah, lovely shirt. Okay, great. So the last question then, final question. In the 2008 Champions League final in Moscow, name each player from both sides that missed in the penalty shootout.
Ronaldo, Anelka, JT.
Correct. Yeah.
Oh,
You get 1 point. If you get all
How did I
3.
get the JT one wrong? Crikey. That's
I was
outrageous.
stupid. I went artificial grass on the third one, artificial/grass hybrid. Been trying to be all clever.
Yeah, I
course
thought
it was
they
the
got
cup.
the turf in from elsewhere that they had to get it in from because the pitch was knackered.
Yeah, I can't give you anything for that. Right, boys, you've just sent me in through. I'm just having a look at the scores here. I can reveal. I think this might be a Southern Manx podcast first. So Ozzy's managed to get 3 out of 5. Mr. Mark Powell strong performance, 4 out of 5. But Nicky G coming back with a vengeance this week with a full house, 5 out of 5. Fantastic performance there. I mean, I'm happy for you. I'm a little bit pissed off because obviously you've gone and all scored heavily on my week, which is disappointing because I want to bloody win. But I don't know if you just managed to. I don't know if you were Tottenham up there, Mark. Do we know what the leaderboard's looking like?
Yeah.
Mike, Joe, sorry to interject. I really appreciate you giving me 3, but it would be 2.5 for me. I can't claim the 3. It's 2.5.
Have I got that wrong? Where was that then, mate?
I got 1 and 2 right, and I got 2 out of 3 for number 5. I got 3 and 4 wrong. Unless you want to give me number 3, I don't know.
Oh, very honest, mate. Very honest. You put penalty misses, Ronaldo, Anelka, and Cole.
Yeah.
And RVM for question 4. Yeah, apologies. 2.5.
Is that another one I'm thinking of where we like bundle the ball into the corner? Or was that Skulls? That was another cup final. I can't remember now. I'm getting confused.
So the current leaderboard now, Nick, after that performance, has gone up to number 1. So he's on 11.5. Second place is me.
Bloody hell.
Second place is me on 11 after missing out on the turf question, Turfgate. Then third place is O on 10, and then JP obviously missed out today because he was quizmaster.
Still close there, isn't it?
Coming up the rear in 7.5.
Well done, lads. Enjoyed that.
So yeah, good questions, JP.
JP.
Yeah, well done. You've done well there. Good scoring. Okay, fantastic. Right, before we move on and hand over to Mr. Powell for a little bit of the roundup on the social, just wanted to mention some other United news this week. Obviously, the young players Hannibal, Mengi, and Elanga all signed new deals this week. What do we make of that?
Yeah, I think it's good for the club. I mean, you never know with youngsters, especially at this age. We've probably all got memories of our favourite youngster or wonder kid that we thought would make it and never did. You know, I can think of people like Fabian Brandy and people like that who I thought would go on and didn't. But Hannibal looks something special. We paid top dollar for him, so he looks something special. Elanga was Player of the Year last season, and Mengi looks an absolute brute at centre half and getting good reports from Wayne Rooney down at Derby. So all positive as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, absolutely. I think.
Yeah, and I think.
Sorry, Mark.
Sorry, Joe.
Go on, after you, mate.
I was just going to say, Hannibal was brought up to the first team, but broke his nose or something in a under 23 game. So he would have been in a squad, and in the end, it turned out that he had to drop out. So Shortiri essentially, and then later with Ahmad, they kind of took his spot. But other than that, he would have been pushing and getting some minutes. So maybe we'll see him before the season's out.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think it's great news to get these sort of good young players, these hot prospects tied up, isn't it? With obviously other big clubs could be sniffing around.
Yeah, I think it follows the direction that we're taking at the moment, aren't we? We're quite keen to tie these players down, you know, and in the typical United way, giving the youngsters an opportunity. But it seems to be quite a particular focus for us, and I'm pleased to see it. You know, especially with the current financial situation. Probably going to be a couple of years before we might see a return to the kind of spending that we've seen previously. I don't know if we'll ever return to the sort of hazy days of 190 odd million for a Neymar. So I think certainly a prudent idea for the club to, you know, use the resources that it's got. Otherwise, you know, why are we bothering really? And it's always special when you have, you know, players come through the ranks, that special attachment to the club, and, you know, it's certainly the United way of doing things, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely, and hopefully some of these lads will, you know, get an opportunity to sort of get their start and perform well, and who knows, maybe go on to be the next sort of big thing. We can but hope, and it looks like they're all sort of promising prospects. So watch this space, I guess. Okay, fantastic. So Mark, just going to hand over to you now for just any sort of roundups you've got for the socials and any followers, etc. for this week.
Yeah, so obviously we're an aspiring podcast in our infancy, but there's been a few other podcasts that started following us now. I just want to give them a quick shout out. So they are the Play by Play podcast, the Weekly Nutmeg podcast, the Play to the Whistle podcast, and In the Name of Football podcast. So we started connecting with them this week. Other than that, yeah, some good points. There was a question posed by Cantona's Collars this week, actually about the game tonight. If you had the option of a prime Wayne Rooney or a prime Ruud van Nistelrooy to lead the line with our current squad in the attack at the San Siro tonight, who would you have picked and why? And there was a general consensus, and I think I kind of agree with it, but I think I probably would have gone with Wazza, given the extra work rate that he'd have given you, that he would be less reliant upon great service, which we in our current squad may not have provided. But any differences in opinions there, lads?
It's toughy, that one. Like, how much would you pay for a prime Ruud van Nistelrooy in this day and age? Really, really great question. I'm such a big fan of both of them. Who knows? We've got a class number 10 in Bruno. That's my only justification. It's not a slight on Wazza at all. We've got a number 10 in Bruno, so I probably would have gone for the prime Van Nistelrooy to sneak those sort of goals in tight games. But yeah, great question.
Yeah, and I think that I probably went my heart a little bit there, because I remember when Wazza was unplayable in the San Siro against Milan, so it probably led my decision to agree with that one. And then the other good question I thought on this week was from Phil Howarth. So I don't know if you guys saw, but the Glazers also own the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who won the Super Bowl in NFL this season. They've just signed the quarterback, sort of legend, Tom Brady. I guess he's like, if you don't watch NFL, he's probably like the Cristiano Ronaldo, Lionel Messi hybrid of NFL MP type vibe. But they've just signed him for another year. I think actually tying him down to another year apparently saves him some money, but obviously still on a massive contract. And Phil asked, well, essentially, if you've seen where the Glazers, I think Avram Glazers sold some shares. I think he's due to pocket around £80 million out of the club. And yeah, Phil posed, if you're wondering where that 80 million's gone, he hasn't invested it back into the club on transfers. It's gone on Tom Brady's contract. So they've taken a few pelters in general on social media this week because of that. Because 80 million, that signs you Declan Rice in the summer potentially. I don't know if you've got any thoughts on that, lads.
Well, maybe we should sign Tom Brady if he's a quarterback. We could do with him in the midfield, perhaps spraying balls. I don't know, but yeah, I think it's the nature of the beast. We know what it is, isn't it? With them, they don't really make any secrets of it. They take as many pelts and as many bullets from the fan base, and just seems like war off a duck's back for them, really. So I can't see it really going to be making any difference, any way, shape or form. Any sort of protests and discontentment we've shown us really hasn't just fallen on deaf ears, really, hasn't it? So it is what it is, I think. Yeah, I agree. I think they have spent a lot of money on the club, but also, they've run it like a business. You've seen some of the results when they're talking about TikTok's the highest growing TikTok account. Is that important? Is that a trophy to them? I want to see trophies in the cabinet rather than followers on TikTok. But if the social media aspect of it helps to drive revenue and that eventually goes on players and that helps us get to trophies, then I'm fine with that as well. So, but yeah, there's always a lot of comments. You go on Twitter, especially if we've started the game badly or had a disappointing result, and whether it's about the manager, the players, the ownership, it can be fairly negative. So yeah, hopefully our listeners can see we'll always be a bit subjective with these types of issues, and yeah, hopefully you've enjoyed that. But yeah, that's my roundup from social media, Joseph.
Thank you very much, mate. Yeah, always interesting to hear what's going on the socials. Obviously, keep subscribing our YouTube channel at Southern Manx. Follow us on Twitter at Southern Manx, and also our Facebook page at Southern Manx. Get subscribing, get liking, get following. Really enjoyable show again, as always, lads. Thanks for joining us. Really enjoyed the chat, and I'll look forward to next week's show. We have been the Southern Manx. Thanks, Mark, Orlando, and Nikki G. Join us again next week. Southern Manx, by the fans, for the fans. Peace out.
Thanks for listening, guys. Cheers.
Ciao, Arrivederci.
Fat boy one ear.
The game is improving, getting better and better. Like I said, I feel like Benjamin Button. I was born old, I will die young.
Well, you played well today, and I've got the Wolfie down there. Thank you. Premier League man of the match. Well played, Benjamin.
Thank you.